Welcome to the Halloween edition of Noir Alley. I'm your host, Eddie Muller. Today I've got a spine-tingling suspense picture, one with a monster lurking in the shadows, a human monster. It's Experiment in Terror from 1962, starring Glenn Ford, Lee Remick, and Stephanie Powers. This was the last film Glenn Ford made for Columbia Pictures, which had been his home studio for 24 years. We might as well go ahead and call it a neo-noir, because there are things about it that definitely distinguish it from similar movies made during the mid-20th century, when noir first flourished. The story revolves around a bank teller, played by the fabulous Lee Remick, who becomes the pawn of a mysterious psychopath. He terrorizes her into robbing the bank where she works. Powers is her younger sister, who gets drawn into the scheme in a way that never would have gotten past the production code a few years earlier. Glenn Ford plays an FBI agent, John Ripley, who tries to protect Remick while he hunts down the culprit. In keeping with the filmmaker's original strategy, I won't mention who plays the villain. He was intentionally left off the credits to add an air of mystery. Let's just pretend it's still 1962 and the internet and social media don't exist, at least for the next 2 hours. FBI agent John Ripley has appeared in Noir Alley before. He was previously played by Broderick Crawford in the 1954 film Down Three Dark Streets. The character was created by the husband and wife team of Gordon and Mildred Gordon, who signed their work simply the Gordons. They met as students at the University of Arizona, got married, and worked as journalists before turning to crime fiction. Many of their 19 novels feature agent John Rip Ripley, and the stories had veracity thanks to Gordon having been an FBI agent working home front counterintelligence during World War II. Today's film is based on their novel Operation Terror, and the Gordons also wrote the screenplay, which was a condition of selling their novels to the movies. They'd been paid $5,000 for the rights to their first book, Make Haste to Live, and later learned that the screenwriter had been paid $40,000 to adapt it. They never let that happen again. The film is produced and directed by Blake Edwards, the first time he served both functions on one film. Although he'd be known mostly for comedies during his long career, Edwards was a big fan of crime pictures. The 1954 noir Drive a Crooked Road was one of his early writing credits, and during the 1950s, he transplanted the 40s-style hard-boiled detective to the small screen in shows like Richard Diamond, Private Eye, Peter Gunn, and Johnny Dollar. Edwards clearly loved his noir, which might explain why he followed up the glamorous Technicolor hit Breakfast at Tiffany's with a gritty thriller shot in black and white. This, however, is not so much a detective story as Edwards making his version of an Alfred Hitchcock movie. Cinematographer Phil Lathrop gets credit for the film's striking imagery, which combines noir atmospherics with great location shots of a San Francisco now largely gone. In fact, the house where Lee Remick lives is as close as any Hollywood movie ever got to filming in the neighborhood where I grew up. The place was located on Clarendon Avenue on the north side of Twin Peaks. As a kid, I played a lot of baseball at Clarendon Park, just down the hill, back when I had dreams of one day playing for the Giants at Candlestick Park. Why am I mentioning this? You will find out soon enough. Featuring a moody and menacing score by the great Henry Mancini, here is Experiment in Terror. The climax of Experiment in Terror was filmed during an actual game at Candlestick Park the night of August 18th, 1961. So let's get the important stuff out of the way first. The Giants beat the Dodgers 2-1. Willie McCovey hit a game-tying homer off Don Drysdale in the 7th. Orlando Cepeda won it with a bomb in the bottom of the 10th. As a bonus, fans who stuck around braving the Stick's legendary Arctic winds got to see a post-game aerial show culminating with a guy getting gunned down on the pitcher's mound. All in all, a fine night of entertainment at the old ball yard. Ross Martin must have enjoyed that unique and exclusive credit he gets at the end. Red Lynch was a new kind of movie villain, and that his psychopathy goes unexplained. He's just a freakish bundle of bad impulses. I dare say the role was influential. Since then, we've seen more than a few cross-dressing killers and asthmatic nut jobs. In fact, as a longtime sufferer of a respiratory illness, I think it's high time that we band together to end this horrid depiction of asthmatics as sociopaths. Let's skip it. There's a long tradition of villains with inhalers going back all the way to Richard Widmark in 1948's The Street with No Name and Gary Merrill in 1950's Where the Sidewalk Ends. Red Lynch's use of disguises foreshadows Ross Martin's most famous role as Artemus Gordon in The Wild Wild West, where every week he'd don disguises to help his pal James West solve crimes in the Old West. Man, I love that show. Although the writers of Experiment in Terror, Gordon and Mildred Gordon, specialized in police procedurals, Blake Edwards was clearly more interested in the Hitchcockian elements of this story. By 1962, he could cherry pick from the master of suspense. We've got the telephonic terror of Dial M for Murder, an unhinged cross-dressing antagonist a la Psycho, the same urban backdrop as Vertigo, and a beautiful blonde in Mortal Danger, just like in, well, take your pick. It's clear Edwards enjoyed making this film, because for the first time he wallows in stylish technique, having a ball staging several cinematic set pieces. This film was definitely a transitional pivot point between the old school, think Glenn Ford and The Big Heat, and the coming wave of stalker and slasher movies. Right after making this, Lee Remick made another film with Blake Edwards, also shot in San Francisco, Days of Wine and Roses. She and co-star Jack Lemmon would both be nominated for Oscars, and Henry Mancini would win one, along with lyricist Johnny Mercer, for its now famous theme song. I wish Lee Remick had made more films that fit in Noir Alley. For an actress who started out being groomed as an all-American version of Brigitte Bardot, she blew right through that phase to become one of the best dramatic actresses of the era. If you think either A Face in the Crowd or Anatomy of a Murder qualifies as noir, let me hear about it on the Noir Alley Facebook page or Twitter feed. Those are both great films featuring a young Lee Remick. Are they noir enough for the alley? Next week's offering certainly is. It's Abandoned, a rarity from 1949 starring Dennis O'Keefe and Gail Storm, and it has never been shown before on TCM. You will not want to miss it, especially as it's the only film in which both Raymond Burr and Mike Mazurki appeared together. Think you can handle it? We'll find out next week. Till then, see you in the shadows.